And we're back again for another edition of Trey's Showdown Live, and I'm here with Matt, or if you're in Oklahoma, Matthew.
That's right.
And Adam, and I love this, Adam West.
Yep. Adam
Batman.
West. Mm-hmm.
I used to shake hands. We'll just do it like this now. All right, guys, we're going to talk to y'all in a minute. I want to get this over. So, we've had, because of the pandemic, we've had some, I don't like saying the word pandemic, but I say it. I really use the word crisis because I don't.
That's an applicable word.
I think we're going to find out in 15 years from now what really happened. Mm-hmm. Maybe less. I don't know.
Can't wait to see the documentary.
I know. I know. Because it's coming.
Yep.
It's coming. So, I'm pretty sure y'all know this, but we've had 6 major restaurants closed because of this. And here again, I think some of these restaurants may have been, a couple were older, and maybe they were already starting to flay a little bit, and this just pushed them over the edge.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
The Bird Cafe in Fort Worth and Sundance Square is gone. 560 Wolfgang, they'll do something else there. It's gone. It had 10 year or 11? It was a long time.
Yep.
About 14 years.
Yeah, longer than I thought it was going to make it. The View. Well, the View. The atmosphere. Oh, yeah. Highland Park Cafe. That was weird. That was kind of weird. I think they were just tired, maybe.
There's something there.
Yeah, there's something there. And the Hofbrau Fort Worth, not all of them, but just the one in Fort Worth. They said the landlord wouldn't work with them, but it's been there a long time too. I'm 15, long time. And then, of course, this is not a restaurant with a Lizard Lounge and down there in Deep Ellum.
Yeah.
It's gone. Mm-hmm. But what do you do? So yesterday was National Barbecue and Burger Day, and of course we talked about that. But we had both our lists out, and they did really well. At Trinity Groves, we had that new Some Dang Good Chinese restaurant. That's what he called it, Some Dang Good Chinese. That's Team Phil Romano's new concept, and it is absolutely wonderful. I've got a blog out now. We went out and been there a couple times, and they've got a fresh noodle and dumpling bar. They have 7 Chinese chefs back there, and everything is absolutely delicious. But go to Trey'sChowdown.com, and you can read the blog. And Texas Monthly is out with their best, I don't think I have with me, but with their best barbecue for 200 places for this year.
No, I haven't seen that yet.
Oh, yeah, you got to see it. I think I got it I thought I had it with me, but it must be in my briefcase or my bag.
When did that come out?
What week ago?
We're working pretty hard.
Yeah, you are. You're working your tail off, aren't you? All right, and that's it. So before we get started, y'all's websites for local Yocal barbecue?
Yeah, local Yocal BBQ and Grill.com, local Yocal Farm to Market.com.
See if anybody wants to dial in while we're talking. They can do that.
Get on it.
So we got before we start, we got local Yocal barbecue and grill in McKinney, which I love. And you won the best craft burger. That for the Hamilton, which is awesome.
Yep.
And then we have local Yocal
Farm to Market, butcher shop where it all started.
Yeah, that all started there. Tell us a bit about that place.
So the Farm to Market, we called it a farm to market instead of a butcher shop because we want to be a lot more than just a butcher shop. So if you come there, it's a local market. But we started out in the farmers market, and we learned some things about the American consumer. We learned that they like air conditioning, they like a roof over their head,
right.
And they like fresh, not frozen beef, and they like to shop other than Saturday morning.
Right.
So we opened the butcher shop so we could sell our cattle, and kind of outgrew ourselves about 4 years in. Started taking on grower partners, and so now we're known for our Wagyu beef, our grass-fed, grass-finished beef, and then we work with 44 Farms Angus. So whatever your flavor is, we have it. We've got great heritage pork, a lot of house-made bacon, house-made sausages. Right. Really great sausage program going over there at the butcher shops. It's a great little market.
It is. And before the crisis, you were doing classes there.
Yeah. So we're going to start our first class next week.
Awesome. I was just fixing to ask you about that.
We're going to start next Saturday. So the Steak 101 classes were what we got to be famous for, because the class was, so I got a whole carcass. Right. Everybody wants a ribeye, fillet, and a strip. We did the class, we get rid of everything else. Right. And it's a fun time. Anytime you can come out and drink and hang out and eat 18 cuts of steak, people like that, right? So it's a great time. We're behind on doing them this year because of the crisis. So we erected a tent. Can you say erected a tent? So,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we erected a tent in the parking lot of the restaurant,
right,
so we can have a patio area.
Oh,
we're doing live
perfect
music. And so I have a place, because with the spacing, I got to space people out.
Right. How many people you say you're in there? 18?
Well, 18 steaks. We usually run 50 people in a steak class on the front porch of the butcher shop.
Right.
But with the new spacing,
Guidelines.
all right, so 6 people per table is what I've always done, but would put groups together.
Right.
It was kind of community seating. Well,
Sure.
can't do that. So now we're doing it where we're going to have more tables spread out under a big tent, and we'll let groups come and you book a table. You want to bring 2 people or you want to bring 6 people to a table, it doesn't matter to us. You're paying for the table. So we're going to start a week from tomorrow.
Are you sold out yet?
We just... Breaking news right here is just going out live today.
So tell for people, because this is a really cool concept. People who don't know or are watching or listening, and to go listen the rest of the week until just run through.
It's an hour of beef industry education, entertainment. Then we roll. Usually at the butcher shop, we go back in the cutting room.
Right.
Here we're going to roll out a chilled cart of 60 cuts of meat, show you all the different steaks, different ways to cut a steak, and then we're going to grill and serve you 18 different cuts of meat. So we start low, work all the way up, and I promise you we're going to serve you a steak you've not had, and we're going to change. People come in, their favorite steak is a filet, a ribeye, or a strip.
Sure.
They leave the class and go, oh, sirloin culotte is my new favorite, or flat iron, or chuck eye, or spinalis.
Yeah. Do you know why those are their favorites?
It's
marketing.
Marketing.
Yeah.
Right.
Marketing. And because people get, and like I talk about all the time on my show, people get in a rut and they don't want to try new things. Mm-hmm. They a lot of them are scared, or they get in their little box. And so a deal like that is awesome.
We force them to eat steak maybe a little rarer than they're used to. So we try to test their edges and get them to come down, try some medium rare, try some things rare. It's like, I'll meet you where you're at a little bit, but you got to come over here and see where I'm at.
Now,
too.
do you cook those, Adam?
I will be, yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. And you get they get, is it a question and answer? They can talk to you and answer questions?
It's very much open forum.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. Yep.
That's really cool.
It is.
Do you enjoy doing that?
Yeah, I've done it a couple of times. You know, whenever I joined the company, we were just on the precipice of opening the restaurant, and so a lot of that stuff continued at the butcher shop. And I took part in some of them in the beginning, and then the restaurant took over, right? And so I didn't have a lot of time to dedicate to doing these classes. But we'll be going back through this and getting it back up again. And now that we're through the crisis, we can actually start doing them again.
Yeah.
So.
And you said 60 cuts.
18 cuts.
I was going to say, what is it?
We show you 60 cuts, but
Yeah, okay.
we cook 18 for you to eat.
Okay. I was going to say, you couldn't, definitely, they could eat that many.
No.
Well, we could try.
You could try. And what's the price for that?
So it's $400 a table,
Right.
up to 6 people per table. Normal price is $75 a person.
Right.
So you get a little bit of a discount
Sure.
for booking the table. You actually, it's pay for 5 people and the 6th one's free.
Still, it's worth it.
Hey,
It's
find a
worth
friend.
it.
Find
I mean,
a friend, book a table.
Go to Grace or Knife or anywhere else and take a couple or take 4 people, see what it costs you to eat.
I have people who come from Dallas that tell me this is too cheap. This is too cheap. They can't convince their friends to come because nothing that's only $75 a person is worth going to McKinney for.
Yeah, but you know what? Let's be fair. Literally, once you leave Fort Worth now, it's all one city anyway. I can go to Dallas and I can go to Dallas and shoot up 75 to McKinney, and there's never a gap. So it's all one city anyway.
Well, hey, good news, it's only 20 minutes from Dallas to McKinney now in the new crisis traffic.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, we talked about that.
Essential drivers are apparently really good drivers.
Yeah. I get on the expressway, the tollway, and I can just blow. You can 90, 95 miles an hour, and I don't see any, like we talked
DPS,
about.
he does not mean that.
I don't mean that. Well, like we talked about the first month, it was hardly anybody out because I had to go to the ranch, and other things, and I was still going and talking to chefs and trying to figure out what was going on, and then as time goes on, like you said, when they opened it back up again, the first week, second week, third week, How was it this morning?
It was a light. I really thought it would take us. Normally when we come here, it was about 20, 25 minutes faster to get here today than it normally would be. Traffic is really light. I don't know if when we were talking about this, I think the work from home is going to be here to stay.
I think so.
And that could help us
out
in the bedroom community, if you would, in suburban. So I think our lunch business will see a gain from that.
Also, too, don't you think that the family meals and the take home and curbside is going to stay too? If you
hope
work
so.
it?
I mean, our butcher shop has been doing phenomenal, and we're about to remodel over there and add some things. And chef's been doing some meals. I'll let him talk about some meals to go. There'll be things you can just go home and pop in the oven and warm up. But also giving you things that you can come in and cook your essential.
Sure.
Pun intended, cooking the essential.
Right.
And then we'll help you with some other sides so that you can go home and warm some things up and get those things out of the market and enjoy some of the restaurant experience that chefs created. in the take-home version, play the home version.
So what? So and during this, and we're talking about local Yocal in a minute. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and talk about that now. So you had the farm to market, and then you opened up the restaurant.
Yeah.
Now the restaurant's been there 2 years now.
A year and a half.
A year and a half.
October was a year. October 19 was a year.
So you started that, and then of course, during the pandemic, y'all never stopped. I mean, y'all were doing all kinds of vegetables and take home stuff, right? You were doing
a lot of different things.
Box. Y'all were doing the box stuff, which apparently was going very well.
Yes, that went viral.
But
So, we were working with Chef's Produce, doing these produce boxes for the first 3 weeks when people couldn't get produce. We were doing that. We opened our barbecue trailer up,
right?
And
you also did a thing where you did parking lot concerts or something, right?
Yeah, we did that. We're about 4 or 5 weeks into that now. So we did, before you could come in the restaurant,
right.
We did car hop style, stay in your car, we'll bring food to you. We did that the first weekend was right before we were able to open the restaurant. So we did that, and it was so popular, we've continued to do that. And that's when we've put the tent up in the parking lot to create this large outdoor dining, open air
experience.
patio, social distancing, the new term we're going to have to live with for the next 10 years. Yeah.
But when this started, and and I called you, and I called chefs all over the place because I want to get everybody's opinion. You and I discussed about who was going to be able to survive and make it work, and who wasn't. The people who were going to be able to adapt and overcome and change really quick, make that rotation. And figure out what was going to work for them were the ones that are going to survive, and that's basically what happened. Because I've got restaurant franchises and restaurants here and locally, and that are up. I mean, they're actually up, and they're flat. They didn't lose any sales. They're at the same they were, and that was their due diligence and making changes and offering everything they did. Yeah, like y'all did.
Well, we have some friends that are up. We're not up, but we're trending well. We're doing better than a lot of people. We're fortunate that barbecue lends itself to go very well. Chef changed the menu, kind of got with it. The food trailer helped, but it was the people that
and they supported you.
People supported us.
Yeah.
I will say the support for local restaurants has been great.
Huge.
I hope people will continue to do that for a long, long time to come. But Chef's ability to pivot and change, we're small enough of a company that we can roll our sleeves up and change, where a lot of people are like, well, we just do this one thing, we just do this one thing, we don't know.
Those days are over. They're gone.
So
you said the word pivot. I've heard that word in the last month probably 10 million times. I've heard it once.
Yeah.
So you did. So tell everybody what you designed what you designed for everybody, how it worked out for during the crisis, and what you're doing now.
So obviously, initially, that major pivot in the beginning was to go towards the produce boxes and kind of getting people an outlet to be able to come and pick up all these items in one box with a dozen eggs, and kind of do those things. The only thing we weren't giving out was toilet paper.
Right.
But changing and shifting, kind of adapting to overcome what we were put up against and the hand we were dealt. Right. So that was our initial one, and then immediately getting the food truck fired up, got a location for that, and just immediately started seeing some serious,
y'all
followers
used everything at your disposal to make it work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You didn't no stone unturned. What was your biggest hurdle you had to get over in your mind for you when it all started, when you knew it was coming and it happened? What was the biggest hurdle that you had to get over?
Probably the transition in general of taking everything that we've ever done as a business model and as a restaurateur, right, is to feed people, right? To prepare food and feed people. And you do that day in and day out, 15, 20 years. That's what you know how to do.
Yeah.
And then to transition that to assembly line and putting together produce boxes and dealing with more of a retail side of it versus the restaurant side was certainly a challenge. Getting people to understand, hey, you know what? I'm a server. Well, today you're an assembly line worker.
That's right.
So
how did you source the vegetables?
We literally called Richard Torres at Chef's Produce, said, man, I know you got stuff sitting down there because everybody was
stopped,
right?
Yeah,
So what do you got? And he said, man, I'm doing the same thing because I'm thinking the same thing you are. Here's what I'm doing. I said, well, let's do it. So I took him some local Yocal boxes, and he figured out what we could fit in that, and we worked it out. And then literally he was bringing us a truck loaded with produce. And the next day we bring another truck and take that one empty. So we were going through pallets.
And you have to think about this. This is all stuff that happened very quickly.
Hours.
I mean, you had to react.
Literally hours.
Bam,
like
bam,
hours,
bam.
A couple of days. It was.
Yeah.
So I paid for all of my spring semesters of college doing fruit baskets. So I understood the assembly line, put things together.
Wait, stop. So again, you said what now?
I sold fruit baskets at Christmas from the time I was in high school through all. I paid for every spring semester of college. I'd sell 1,500, 1,800 fruit baskets at Christmas.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You would get them and put them together?
I'd go down the Dallas Farmers Market and buy an 18-year-old kid to have my dad's truck driver drive me down to the farmer's market. I'm an 18-year-old kid.
Right.
And I write a check for like $8,000 or $9,000 worth of fruits and vegetables. And the next year I came back and they're like, we don't let people do that. like that's not normal. The old man that liked you and he lets you do that. Like you can't just be an 18-year-old kid, show up from Oklahoma and write a check.
And you put the baskets together.
Yeah, so I pay all my friends. You know, my broke college buddies are on college break, and so so
that's amazing. That's a great story. Anyway, so now go ahead. So you already had the experience.
So that's just kind of understood how to make an assembly line. Slide it down, put two things in, slide it down, and we were able to keep a lot of our waiters working. I'm gonna tell you the hardest thing for me was when he and I had to sit down with a list of employees and go, all right.
Oh, yeah.
And literally sometimes like, hey, you know what? This person still lives with their parents. They're a great employee, but let's furlough them because they can make it.
Yeah.
I think that was the toughest day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was my heart. So when we had all our restaurants, once I got older, my deal was I was the fireman. And so anytime he bought a new restaurant chain or a restaurant, or they had to fire district manager, we had problems, they would send me in, and that was what I had to do. And I always, because when you have to go do that, you don't really, I didn't know those people. So I had to get to know those people and see who worked well, who didn't, who could stand it, who couldn't stand it. Because in a transition, half of them didn't like the transition anyway, and they never did. They didn't like new managers, they didn't like new owners. It's just a bad deal. Mm-hmm. So I know how tough that was. It's tough.
Then we quickly figured out that some people who were great in their normal position didn't transition well to assembly line, produce boxes, or home delivery, or whatever. Thank God for his kitchen staff, who are just absolutely amazing. A big portion of them went and worked at the butcher shop, because the butcher shop, man, they were just overworked.
They had to be. You told me a story about people backing up and getting open their trunks or open the doors.
So for weeks now, we've had someone at the door. Okay, 2 people can go in. Okay, 3.
You feel like you own a bar, a club?
Yeah, we literally have a bouncer at the door letting people in for weeks and weeks now at the butcher shops, because we really only need about 10 to 15 people at a time in there. So it's been, the butcher shop has been something.
Don't you? Is it phenomenal? A lot of people would do it. A lot of people would open up a restaurant and then do a butcher shop.
Yeah.
You opened up the butcher shop, did the restaurant, and now it's amazing that you have it, because it helps you both. It helped you both ways during the pandemic or during the crisis.
Even coming out of it, we have meat. So I said, I didn't have some magic crystal ball. Just understood the industry, and realized when this comes back, when we turn the light switch to restaurants on, there's going to be a sucking sound, and there's not going to be enough meat in the supply chain for everybody to open.
Right.
And we saw emails from broadliners saying, you may not have ground beef next week, right? I'm like, well, we don't buy ground beef from the system. We have the butcher shop, so everything comes through the butcher shop. So.
Smart aleck. You know what I told her about the big thing? I told her about don't give up. Don't give up. Some of them did give up, but you don't. Right. You can't. If you give up, then your whole team gives up. You can't. You have nowhere to go if you give up.
Yeah.
Right.
But down. That's the only way you got to go. They're gonna come lock your door and put a sign on the door. And you know how that goes.
Yep.
So, what was your favorite meal you did during the crisis? What was your favorite meal? And you're still doing some of those now, right?
Oh yeah, okay. Absolutely. So we've actually transitioned to do a couple of different sectors, if you will, and we're trying to grow up one side of it, which is kind of the frozen meals at home.
Right. Tell me about that. That's cool.
Yeah, so we're teaming up with 44 Farms right now.
Awesome. 44 Farms, shout out. Woo!
Yep.
I love those guys.
Those guys actually came over and talked to me. I've known Jose Vargas, our regional rep, for a number of years.
Jason?
and got in with those guys and presented essentially a list of 4 different entrees and 4 different side dishes that they can sell frozen, ship it wherever, and provide that option for, you don't even have to get out to have a restaurant quality meal.
So if you don't have to be in the DFW area, North Texas, you can be from anywhere and ship it anywhere.
Yes,
Exactly.
Like, what's the dry ice?
48.
Dry ice frozen, right? Exactly.
Styrofoam in the box.
Exactly right. Yep.
So he worked his rear off on those. Big shout out to him, because it wasn't just a meal to eat. He had to make the meal so that when you reheated it, it's right.
And it tastes good.
And it tastes good.
And did a heck of a job, man. It's really good.
Turned
food.
out pretty cool.
Two biggest things with the dishes, man. It's got to look good,
Right.
and it's got to taste good.
Exactly.
And if it doesn't look good, it ain't gonna taste good. That's the truth. You can have the best dishes in the world, and there's like, I'm not gonna say who it was. There was this guy at a restaurant. He made these really good dishes, but his plating, dude. I don't know, man. It looked like something out of
That's why they don't let me plate
Nickelodeon.
food.
I mean, it was terrible. I could never get past the
ugliness
ugliness
of it.
of it. Even
Right.
though it was delicious, you'd be like, but
Yep.
he didn't make it. So.
Yep. And it was a challenge. I mean, that was a sector of the industry I've never worked in.
Sure.
Right? Is kind of meals ready to eat or frozen
But you
food.
weren't scared to do it.
I wasn't scared to do it. It was a challenge to me. I'm
Sure.
always up for a challenge, and so that's exactly what we did. And we approached it as if we were a restaurant plating a plate of food, and let's see the results of when you freeze it and how does it reheat. And we had some flops. We had some things that just don't reheat well.
Sure.
That was to be expected. But we chose dishes that, pot roast is an example of that. We
that
have
sounds
baked
good.
ziti. We're using all of their meat, right? So
Right.
we're highlighting the product of the meat that they're providing for us, and then pairing it up with local seasonal ingredients that actually cook well and freeze well and then reheat well. So
Sure.
there's 3 steps of that, right? And so, but utilizing kind of my restaurant knowledge of how a dish should look and how it should taste, and using ingredients that aren't necessarily, we're not limited to what you would normally see, and using preservatives and all those other things.
Right.
Because as long as you're eating it and you're ordering it every 6 months or whatever, and you're using it, it doesn't need a bunch of sodium erythorbate and all
Right.
that other stuff in there, right?
Stuff that kills you, it's not good for you.
it's
or
real
whatever.
food.
Yeah, it's real food.
So
Real food, real good.
His hotel background came in to making large.
Yep.
Making 100 of a meal.
So you
100 meals at one time.
You were in the hotel business. I didn't know
for
that.
a long time, yeah.
I thought you were in the Batman business.
No, never actually pursued that side of it.
Dude,
so.
how the heck do you get a name Adam West? I would have a big ass cape on the back of my chef's coat.
Yeah.
He's too humble. He's too humble.
Oh boy,
I probably should look into that. at
that
some
would
point,
be
yeah.
that would be fantastic. I dare you. I dare you.
So the first time we did a dinner together, I came out and introduced him, and I played music off my phone for these.
Yeah.
I'm playing the Batman. He's shaking his head.
Here we go.
Well, before this too, you had a mobile. You told
I
me
had a food truck for a little while. Yeah.
It was what do you call it?
It was Unforsaken Bacon was the name of the food truck, but I started the LLC as Bat Chef Catering. So-
Unforsaken. What was it?
Unforsaken Bacon.
That's
so
a good
we
name.
were specialized in bacon.
That's a good name.
Obviously,
You know,
so-
they had another bacon truck here. Didn't make it either.
Yeah.
I'm not saying yours didn't make it, but they had another bacon truck that didn't make.
Right.
Didn't make.
It's
I
a
don't know
tough
why.
industry for sure.
I wonder why, because everybody loves bacon.
Yeah, no, I mean, we were great. I actually just got a really good job offer that I couldn't really pass up.
Sure.
And, it was fun. It was kind of a midlife crisis going from, I was so jaded from the hotel industry and
Yeah.
the intensity at which I was working, and it played a huge part in kind of my decision to jump off the other side and say, you know what, I'm going to work for myself. I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it. And if I don't feel like working, I don't want to go to work today. And I did that for a while. And then, bills piled up
Yeah.
and, life called. So I had
table.
I'm sorry. But I had to get back to it. So,
Yeah.
and I missed it. The rush of being in a restaurant is unlike any other. I
Yeah.
used to have nightmares of the ticket printer going.
Oh, getting crammed.
Yeah.
Oh, and especially in a hotel or something like that, or even at your place during a rush for 10 minutes.
yeah.
those tickets get backed up for 10 minutes. Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to
That's
stay
disastrous.
cool under pressure. That's for sure.
We
Hey.
did the concert series. I think you had 80 or 90 tickets
All at
hanging
once.
at one time.
Why did they put them all? Why didn't they stagger putting them in?
I don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
Oh, there's
Would that
always
stand to reason?
well, there's a disconnect between
Okay.
front of house, back of house communication,
Okay.
stuff like that happens.
It was
But
that
something new.
first night.
Something new.
It was something
so
new.
many people
Yeah.
showed up. It's something new.
You didn't
a lot
expect
of
it.
people in a lot of areas.
People wanted to
And
get out, didn't they?
It was
That was a big
300,
part of it.
300 people showed up in cars.
Hey, what do you think they felt safe? What do you think about the new boutique hotels?
well,
Is that
so
going to do well?
Yeah, I mean, that's actually where I came from. I was at Hotel Zaza for 6 years. You want to kind of call that the original boutique in Dallas, right? And then I was in Dallas for 4 years and 2 in Houston. So I went down to Houston, took over the restaurant down there, and did not like Houston. No offense to Houston, but I just wasn't a fan of it. It wasn't Dallas, wasn't home. So didn't like it a whole lot. Got home as fast as I could, and that's when we opened up the food truck. But yeah, the boutique hotel is definitely something that is in a lot of ways here to stay. But the one thing that they're hurting on right now is the price point. Right?
Sure.
So getting people to understand that you can go to the Marriott and you can pay $200 a night, or you can come here and pay $350. What are you getting above?
Especially now.
Right.
Oh my Lord! I don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
They better have some deep pockets. Is all I know.
Yeah.
I told you all earlier. Marriott just put a big news release out yesterday that they furloughed for another 3 to 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Just skeleton crews.
Yeah.
It's just not there.
I mean, it's unprecedented. I mean, this is. I've got plenty of former coworkers and colleagues that I stay in touch with from Houston and
Probably
Dallas.
don't have jobs.
They've all been let go. They've all been furloughed. They've all been, down to the skeleton crew where everybody else was going to go, but your salary, you're staying, and you're going to run all this by yourself, right? So they're definitely hurting. So.
So what is the most popular thing at the butcher shop? Like what? So if you had to pick one thing that people really like the most, what would it be?
The McKinney steak, the steak we invented. We've only are able to keep it on the counter 2 days a week. It's out of the chuck under flap, and it's just, people text me, "Can I get some McKinney steaks?" Like Facebook. All my friends. They're always joking. People are like, "Well, I know Matt. I met Matt.
Yeah,
I need
everybody's
McKinney
your best
steaks."
buddy when you want a steak.
When they want a steak. So the McKinney steak's pretty popular. Ground beef's been a little popular the last couple of months.
Yeah,
But the McKinney steak, sirloin culotte, that's another one. It's only 2 on a steer, so very popular. Not normal cuts, or you kind of a little bit unique to us.
Yeah, brisket's popular.
Brisket was popular
Until it got to be what?
$9.90. We're at $9.99 a pound on an all natural, and I hated.
What do you have to though?
That's
to
where
chain
it's
reaction.
at. I mean, that's a
so let's
44 farms all natural.
Let's talk
brisket.
about this a little minute.
All right.
'Cause I know you want to. I know it's. I know it's going to burn a hole in you. We're going to talk about it a little bit.
Okay.
Let's explain to people why the Packers are controlling everything. 85% of the people control 100% of the market, which is right?
Well, 4 Packers harvest 85 to 93% of the cattle in the United States. The outside looking in, there's a lot of government oversight. There's USDA reporting, but it's through forward contracting and captive supply. They also own these big Packers also own a lot of the feedlots, so they have enough of their cattle in the pipeline that they could care less if they buy yours or not. So there's a lot of layers. There's a lot of layers to it. Then there's the distribution model that they report profits on the packing side, but then there's the distribution side.
Right.
So there's other sides to that business where there's income streams that aren't reported. But where is it healthy to have 4 people dominate an industry?
Yeah.
And they don't. These same guys, they aren't just beef guys. They also dominate poultry. They also dominate pork.
Right.
So. It's a big deal.
The average person does not understand the cattle market, the swine. They just don't understand how it works. There was a fake deal that went out there on the internet that said, and everybody believed it. It said all the farmers were having to kill all their pigs and their cows because no one would take them.
Right. We weren't euthanizing cattle.
No.
Now they were aborting sows, so they were taking bred sows and aborting them in the Midwest. Now a chicken only lives for 6 weeks, so you can just kind of shut that down.
Yeah.
But you had a lot of problems with these plants. So what's going on with these plants? One of the problems we have these bigger is not always better. When we have beef plants that one plant harvests 5 to 10% of the production for a country. That's one of the largest producers in the world. Okay, that's a little too big. And we saw our first glimpse of that. We had that fire in Kansas catch on fire, and it rocked the market.
Sure.
Because that plant was responsible for about 8% of the beef harvest in the United States. So, and it was offline, and that messed things up. So the market, meat went up and cattle went down. But then cattle producers are not ignorant guys, and they read the USDA Carlot reports too, and they said, wait a minute, this plant's responsible for 8% of production, and it went offline, and live cattle went down 10%, and box meat went up 10 to 15%. and y'all harvested 525,000 head of cattle the week before it burned, and you harvested 570,000 head the week with it offline. Wait a minute. And just as all that turmoil was happening, then this hit.
Yeah.
And it's pretty hard for a guy. I've got a friend in Florida who's got 800 head of cattle on feed, can't get them sold.
Woo.
The same time, his wife's coming home from the grocery store with $10 a pound ground beef.
Right.
It's hard pill to swallow.
Sure it is.
When you're paying $12, $14 a pound for chuck roast at the rural grocery store,
Right.
and $8 to $10 a pound for ground beef, and you can't sell your cattle,
Right.
or your
I'm
feeder
not
cattle.
selling it. I'm just letting them eat. I got tons of grass. I was letting them in. I'm not even gonna. I mean, because the price is ridiculous and it's not fair.
Right.
Yeah.
It things are out of whack now. These plants are operating at limited capacity with our restaurants. With our restaurants offline, 50% of groceries are consumed in restaurants in the state of Texas. 50% of food is consumed. So when you close restaurants, it's a huge
Throws it
shift.
all off. Throws everything.
Huge shift in dynamics
Produce,
with the supply
everything,
chain.
yeah.
So there's a lot of problems. Of course, and they're having COVID in the
Right.
plants.
Right.
That's due to
That was a bad deal.
The communal living of the employees. A lot of people don't realize a lot
Right.
of these employees, they live
5,
in a
10, 50, yeah.
They live in a dormitory
Dormitory.
style environment. They're not people in suburban America.
I think people
headed
would be
to-
shocked if they knew.
I think people would be a little surprised
Yeah.
if they knew
Yeah.
if they knew that the majority of these guys are agricultural visa workers from 100 different countries, literally 100 different countries.
Yeah.
So there's some shaking. The cattlemen of America are pretty shook up right now, and I think for the first time. So 12 years ago, when I went on what I'm doing now,
Right.
I was a nut.
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean? You're all natural beef. Oh, nobody wants to buy beef. I was a nut.
Yeah.
And now I've got a lot of friends.
Right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We were in Oklahoma working cattle a few weeks ago, and a friend of mine asked me, "Hey, what are you paying for cattle right now?" I said, "The same thing I paid 3 and 4 years ago." He said, "Really?" I said, "Man, I'm stable. We're stable." And guess what? So now that brisket's an exception. The prices in our butcher shop,
Because there's only
but the prices on the cattle we supply, we've not gone up a penny. What we're charging for meat at the butcher shop is the same as it was January 1.
Yeah.
We have not changed our prices.
You should see. Have you seen the prices? The actual people showing the prices of the meats in California and Arizona stuff they're having to buy.
Certainly have.
Certainly. A brisket was like $200. There's one brisket was like it was nuts, whacked.
Yep.
It's and a brisket you can say, oh, you know what, I'm not going to enjoy my weekend hobby and smoke a brisket, but when the essentials, when ground beef and chuck roast are 3-4x of what they normally are,
Sure.
and live cattle are down,
Right.
live cattle are down 25%. It's a hard pill to swallow.
It just makes you mad. But you know what I've noticed, because my dad was part of the Cool program. He went to Washington several times to talk about that. And
country of origin labeling.
Yes.
For those who don't know, Cool.
Yeah. And the whole
Cool's mandatory country of origin labeling.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of.
In the last 20 years, though, you've seen this big shift because ranchers and farmers didn't really get involved. But the last 20 years, it's gotten stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger about all that because it's just not fair.
It's really good. They took Cool away in 2015, 2016. It went away. It just, whoop, one day we woke up, we didn't have Cool anymore.
Yeah.
So if you're a large company, you would certainly like to bring in some cheaper product from some other countries and blend it in with the American product and put it out there. The amazing thing about the American consumer, so there's a lady that has a big name in the meat business. She's like, 85% of consumers buy on price only. They buy on price only. I'm going to tell you what.
I don't believe that.
You give the American consumer the choice. You put a American label on a food product, and you put a Brazilian label on a beef product. The American consumer will pay for that American product.
They will. But you got to give them a choice.
You got to give them a choice, and that's what I've always been about. Hey, you don't have to buy meat from me, but I won't give you the choice. I want you to know where it came from, how it was raised.
But some of them are buying the Brazilian meat and putting the American price on it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, right.
Are.
Say, you don't know.
How do you know? How do you know what you're getting?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You can tell if you look at it.
You'll taste it. But it's a big challenge, and we need to get country of origin labeling back.
Yep.
We do have some issues to work out on the Canadian border. A lot of American cattle go up to Canada to finish and come back. we got to work out that the Canada issue. We have a Mexico issue with NAFTA. I'd be okay with a North American. I'd still be okay with a product of USA, Canada, Mexico. That's a good product. That's still a good product.
Yeah, as long as it was all over.
If we had, I'd like to see 2 labels: product of USA, product of USA, Mexico, Canada.
Sure.
And then,
as long as it's regulated, yeah.
May contain products from Brazil, may contain products from Uruguay, may contain products from
there's a lot
needs to be there.
There's a lot of big Texas, a lot of ranchers in the United States that have cattle in Mexico. They're partners with,
I tell you what, 20 years ago, the quality of cattle that came from Mexico were, we used to joke, boy, that M Ranch doesn't raise very good cattle. They have to M brand all the cattle coming from Mexico. Well, that M Ranch is producing some pretty good cattle now.
Cattle and tequila.
They are producing some pretty dang good cattle out of Mexico. So I'll give them that for sure.
So what do you think your next biggest hurdle is? Where are you going to go from here? What's your next biggest hurdle? What do you think the next biggest challenge is for the restaurant business?
Our immediate challenge is getting people back to work.
Sure.
We've not hired back as many people as we'd like to. The government gave me some money and said get everybody back to work by June 30th.
Enough.
No, but people won't come back to work.
Yeah.
I mean, so we're hiring. We're trying to hire
why they
people.
won't come back to work? They're getting
getting a heck of a check to stay home. So, and I understand that.
Yeah.
Government. That's the government's fault, not the people's fault. More than
some people really are scared
Our
to death.
other challenge is just adapting to these new spacings, to the new world. It's pre 9/11, post 9/11.
Right.
How we flew before 9/11, how we flew after.
Yeah.
So I think this outdoor dining, we're pursuing that.
You know what? I've always loved outdoor dining. I've always been a huge opponent. If you go to my website, it'll tell you. I have one of my biggest quotes is, "I like bringing the outside in and the inside out." And I like restaurants open up in front. And you've got the whole thing. I like outside dining. It's just for me. It's like a street dining in Rome, in Italy, or
New York,
in Germany,
or
New York, or wherever. Right. There's the atmosphere is more vibrant. It's more lively. It's it's just a whole lot more colorful. There's just a whole lot of things about it.
Yeah, you just feel better. You feel better out in the natural sunlight.
Yeah. And now it's fresh air.
It's fresh air because it turns out sunlight kills this stuff dead.
Yeah. You know what? That's another thing too. That's another thing why people got so scared during this thing, because it just kept getting mixed.
It's unknown. I think there's just so much. There was so much unknown.
Yeah, it was just unknown.
So much unknown going into this.
It was crazy. It was like the bar eating at the bar. And we talked about that.
Yeah, this like they set some rules. So what we talked about was that the state put out some rules, and a friend of ours owns a restaurant. Spent a day and got that rule reversed because the people who wrote the rule didn't understand how a bar worked. They literally had no understanding physically how a bar works in a restaurant. And that's sometimes we have legislators or regulatory authorities. It's important to have people from the industry.
Sometimes the experts aren't the experts. We'll talk about that. So what's your biggest challenge going to be in the kitchen? I guess keeping it staffed. You can just make the changes as you go along.
Right. Yeah. Keeping staff. And then of course, again, my role at the restaurant is much more than just in the kitchen. And so I deal with a lot of the front of house staffing issues as well. And that has been a challenge. We are in the higher mode right now.
Sure.
The other thing too is what we're seeing a lot of is places like Indeed, where we're getting 20 to 25 applicants a day, of which none of them show up. And
are you serious?
Well, they're checking their box so that they can keep getting that unemployment.
Checking their box.
Wait. No, so they can keep getting that check.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But they don't want to. If you offer it to them and they don't take it, then they lose the check. Right.
That's correct. But they don't even show up to the actual interview.
They don't show up.
So
we don't.
But see, what I just learned is actually Indeed a couple of years ago started, and I don't know if I can say the name on here, but they actually started a program where you log into your account and you've got a dashboard, and it'll actually summarize how many jobs you've applied to this week. You can click that printout, and then that is your proof that you've applied to all these places, so you can continue to get your benefits. So they're setting it up to be exactly what an applicant who wants to stay on.
Because they're setting it up for themselves so they can keep making the money.
Correct.
That
too.
It looks like they've applied.
Sure.
But they never showed up for the interview.
Yep.
Kind of like a little bait and switch type deal. Yeah. Same type.
So
deal.
that's been the biggest challenge right now is getting people to come back to work.
I I just can't believe. I know some people are actually scared. I don't know what percentage of them. Some
Absolutely.
people are, and are they're sick of their and if they
some
get it,
people that have
it
issues.
could kill
I mean,
them, or it could kill them, seriously kill them. And I understand it, but for the biggest part, I don't understand why somebody would want to sit at home
Right.
and not, even if they're getting paid, and not go. I mean, I would have a hard time doing that.
Right.
That's
it's just,
we'd have a hard time stealing a car, but there are people who steal a car. So,
yeah.
so we're not,
Yeah.
we're crazy workaholics. I mean, we've been people like, oh well, I guess y'all took it easy with all this. Well, he and I probably worked as hard or harder than we've worked ever.
Sure.
During all this, but
well, that's what I've been telling everybody. Everybody say, what you've been doing, man. I'll tell you what I've been doing. This deal. What I used to go to a restaurant and talk to a chef and maybe get in the kitchen or whatever,
food's coming in.
Thank you. I've had to be on the phone talking to chefs and restaurants all day, searching who's open, who's closed, who's delivering, who's not, who's shut down, who's open.
Yeah.
It's my job
called me
tripled
2, 3, 4 times just to make sure you had up to date information
Yeah.
on us. We're checking on us. I really appreciate you were just checking on us a lot too.
Yeah, it was. Well, it's just it's a tough
find out
industry.
you had a finger on the pulse. I think you've had if there's anybody out there listening needs a finger on the pulse, Trey Chapman has a finger on the pulse.
I called people in
going on.
Abilene. I mean, I went to Paris. I mean, it was important to me. All right, so here we got this is the burger that won the best craft burger in North Texas. Adam, I'm gonna let you talk about it.
All right,
here.
so this is the Hamilton. The story behind this one, obviously, is that whenever we had the food truck years ago, the boys on the truck wanted to create a burger that was too big for
Sure.
Mr. Hamilton himself to eat. Original had 2 patties, but this has a Wagyu beef patty, 2-3 slices of brisket, depending on the size, bacon, jalapenos, onions, obviously caramelized onions, and then, of course, the jalapeno cheddar sausage.
Jalapeno cheddar sausage.
Which is made in house. It's pretty awesome. And then Tillamook cheddar over the top, a little bit of mayo on the bun. I mean, it's about a pound of meat. It's a big boy.
It's an awesome burger. I mean, it's just, and I mean that's why it won the.
It's agricultural support system. There's every level of agriculture is supported there. Wheat farmers, dairy farmers,
Look at that.
pig farmers, cattle ranchers.
And that's why I picked it. I've got a nice little video of it too if you go to tracechatman.com and just go to the burgers, it's very easy, burger tab. There'll be a video in there. Did you like that music for that?
Good, bad, and ugly.
And, of course, we put the fruit on there as just to give your cardiologist a break.
Yeah. So this is a pound of meat, if I remember right?
It is.
It's a pound of meat. So that's amazing that you came up. And so how many of these you think y'all sell? I mean, did you? I want to ask you. Hang on, I want to ask you a question. And you don't have to be.
No.
But did your sales bump up after the article came out? Did you notice an influx in the?
Oh, it did.
Sales?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's good.
Absolutely.
And
That's
it was already a very popular item, obviously, don't get me wrong. But the biggest point on this is that you got to be, this is a commitment.
Right. Yeah.
You got to be either really hungry or slightly crazy to order this thing and expect to finish it.
Okay. How many people order it and go, oh my God, I didn't know it was that big?
50%.
Oh, yeah.
50%? Really?
50%. My 81-year-old dad ordered this Saturday, and I don't know, he just had never ordered it. And I guess on the menu, he just hadn't seen it. He goes, well, I got a burger with my name on it. I'm ordering that. And my sister's like, Daddy ordered the burger. He doesn't know what it is. He's like, oh my, what in the world? Yeah.
Well, also awesome. Too, I guess the menu, you can't put the pictures of everything on the menu. So you don't really need, it just sounds good on the menu. And then when it comes out, it's just like, you can smell it coming first off. You can, when they're at the corner table, you can smell it. It's just, the presentation's awesome.
But it all works together. So I'm going to tell you something funny,
work.
though, because we had this on the food truck. So when Chef came up and joined us, and he and I literally physically worked on the restaurant for months.
Right.
And then we finally are going to get to be a restaurant. So he's like, all right, menu. He's working on menu development. He's like, what things do we need to have? I said, well, we've got this Hamilton burger. And he's like, really? All of that on a burger? And he's like, can I touch it? I said, well, you can touch it. Don't kill it, but you can touch it. And so then he's like, man, I just don't know. That's a lot. And he says, hey, we prototyped one of those yesterday. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
So he goes, that's pretty good. So it all works together. It's insane, but it works together. A lot of people split it.
What's funny is that if one of the meats was off, it wasn't prepared. If one of the meats wasn't cooked right, the whole burger would be off. And every time I've had it, it's just been, spot on.
Yep.
Absolutely delicious. So for people that don't know about the grill, because I have a hard time explaining because it's just so beautiful. Tell us that building was a grocery store.
It's a wholesale grocer, so
Okay,
it wasn't
what-
open to the public.
When was the building built?
1917 and then 1931. Yeah, there's two parts to it.
It's just a beautiful, eclectic type building. Then you left. It's old brick,
Open truss, brick. Yeah.
and it's got the docks out. The docks aren't front, but the dock was out front, right?
The patio was
Yeah.
a loading dock. That's
Right.
where, so that they would bring the railroad siding went right along the east side of the building. They would
Right.
unload rail cars of groceries into the building, and then they would load. I have a picture up in the hallway of Model Ts and wagons backed up to the front of the building being loaded with groceries. going out
Dirt.
towards
I guess dirt roads.
a brick paved road.
Brick
'Cause
paved
we-
road.
Brick paved road because the freight depot was in our parking lot, and the people depot was right across the tracks.
So it's a whole little area.
Oh yeah, we're at the epicenter. Back in the day, we were, we're on the east side and things are coming back that way. But back in the day, we were at the center.
Okay, now that I'm thinking
Down
about it,
McKinney.
if I'm standing looking at the parking lot, there's lots of room on both sides of the track.
Right.
Okay,
It was
so
all siding.
okay.
There was literally a depot in our parking lot. The rail line that's there was a north-south, two sets of rail lines, and then there were 4 or 5 sidings between our building and in our parking lot. Just
Can you
side by
imagine
side.
how busy that was? Can you imagine? I mean, it just had to be crazy in there.
Steam engine. You see this picture? I'll show it to you next time. You're
Steam
up.
engines to me are still phenomenal. To think that somebody came
smell
up with
so
that, yeah, and then but to run down,
Intricate.
yeah, and run down the tracks like that, it's just they're still cool looking to me. I mean, it just. I don't know. It's weird. It's just for me. I can't imagine how somebody even builds or can engineer something like that. It's just phenomenal.
Well, both of our buildings. So my butcher shop's and building is built in 1885. The restaurant's and building built in 1917. And people say, what? They can't quite put their finger on what authentic.
Yeah.
The buildings are authentic. The food is authentic. The people are authentic.
Everybody, staff in every area is always nice. Always, a lot of restaurants will have it's always nice.
Yeah, we don't want you here if you're that person.
Yeah.
we don't want you here. So I knew Adam before. Never thought I'd get a guy like this come work with us.
You knew
When
Batman
we
before.
come on. So I knew him when he was at another restaurant in Dallas, and God just kind of put on my mind to call Adam and see if he'd come up, and he did. And the thing we've agreed on is there are great people in the F&B industry. There are great people.
Sure.
And there are some turkeys.
Oh yeah.
And we want to say
Turkey's a nice word.
That's a very nice word. So we decided we want to be the non-turkey place. So we just put it out there. Hey, you know what? If you can't pass a drug test, this might not be the place for you.
Yeah.
And if you're looking to come in here and cause drama and
Dude, I have a friend of mine, Ben. He owns a bunch of ranches out west. All the way to Abilene, all the way out South Texas. Dude, and he does a lot of farming too. And he puts his ads up, and they are just. He's like, all right, I got a job a job for somebody to run a big tractor, but I don't want a meth head. I don't want a tweaker. I don't want a drama.
Air biscuits.
Because he doesn't give it. He puts this stuff down. It's like,
Right.
Dude, a lot of people want to say that, but they you can't say that. But it's funny.
Well, Dave Ramsey says donkeys don't like to hang out with thoroughbreds, and thoroughbreds don't like to hang out with donkeys.
Right.
So if you have a majority of thoroughbreds,
Right.
you'll get rid of the donkeys. Now,
Right.
when we opened, it was a challenge to get enough thoroughbreds. Opening a restaurant's tough, especially 2 years ago.
Oh yeah.
It's hard to hire people. So we've got the greatest people.
Since you said that, before I was going to do it at the end of the show, but since you said I'm going to say it, during this crisis, restaurants were closing. So Phil Romano opened up his new concept to some dang good Chinese and got a lot of flack for it. And then and this next week we have a new restaurant opened up called the Salty Dog. It's the Salty Donut. It's over in Bishop's Arc District, and the donuts are just phenomenal. Craft donuts, maple bacon stuff. But they open up, and I'm excited to see how I'm sure they'll do well. They've got they already have a lot of followers and stuff. But it's just kind of cool that it's just for me. It's a positive breath of fresh air that something's opened up and not just shut down. So
I don't know why he get flack for opening. I mean, we
they gave him a lot of flack.
We got to carry on. So we really hope going into this that we'd be able to get some great employees at the end of this. So to kind of wrap up what you're saying about restaurants have closed, I feel like the restaurants that have already closed, they have one foot in the grave. This is their graceful exit.
Sure.
September to October will be the next wave, the ones that summer just takes out.
Right.
That'll be our next wave, and then next January.
Yeah.
So we won't. It'll be a year before we really see the full effects of this.
It's going to take because a lot of them are going to get extra funding, and they're going to be able to limp along, and they're going to make deals with landlords, and those deals are going to come due, or they're going to spread it out, and then it's just going to get them. I mean, it's just the not enough people, not enough volumes, not turning enough tables. It's just going to get them. But you won't know for a while. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like Matt said, I think this is the straw that broke the camel's back, and not just for restaurants. I mean, across the U.S., you're seeing things across the world. Really, any business that was already kind of failing or kind of retail. I mean, my goodness, you're going to see what retail does in the next 6 to 8 months. I mean, yeah, some of them will be able to reopen, but for how long?
You will also see, and I think I've seen this with y'all. I think you'll see the people who made it and who've come out better for it, who were passionate about their business and worked it, and their customers gave them support and they supported them. But vice versa, there's the people that are going to do well, and they're going to come out of this thing really strong.
Right.
Because
consumer demand is strong.
Sure.
The consumer is actually very confident right now. They're buying boats and power. I mean, there's a lot of segments of premium segments that are doing very well. So consumer confidence is strong. Right now, I think that the American consumer is ready to support. 10 years ago, we had a big local push, and it kind of faded.
Right.
They're back. I think it's like, hey, I want to support my local restaurant. I want to buy local food, and I want to buy things made in America. This country is ready to get back to making things, buying things here, and let's have less. I tell you what, let's have 3 of something instead of 50 of something, or 20. Instead of buying a whole bunch of cheap ones, let's buy one good one.
You know what kills me? I don't know what the number is. Don't quote me on the number. 60%, 80%, 75% of our drugs are made in China. Does that not scare you? It scares me a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I don't. So I got to pay $10 more or $20 more for a prescription or whatever. I'll do it to know that I feel safe. Who knows what this crisis that happened to us proves to us how not ready we were as a country. If something was major, if somebody was major to jack with us.
Right. So we had the saline issue a few years ago
in
Puerto Rico.
Right, I remember that.
Right. Now we've had some antibiotic issues. We're getting antibiotics in the country. Do you really want to let your food supply go to South America?
No.
Do you really? Because do you think we ought to keep American farmers and ranchers producing our food? Do you think it's important?
And that's another thing,
pretty dang important.
Very important. And that's another thing. I think this also brought to light too what the American farmer goes through. And what, I say farmer, I'm talking about rancher or farmer, vegetables or beef or protein, whatever.
Absolutely.
What it's brought to light when people saw all the farmers having to throw the vegetables away, and then what they thought about, chickens and all that stuff. I think it's brought a lot to the American consumer, and I think they won't forget that. I don't think they will. Now, I think some things will go back to normal in time, but I don't think they'll ever forget what they saw about the farmers and the ranchers and the throwing away. Because anybody sitting at home that's not been able to get food, and they see people throwing stuff away,
pouring gallons of milk down the drain.
Oh my God, that I was getting sick.
Yeah,
I drove. Okay, I took that. I had to go. I went to see 407 Barbecue. So when I left the ranch, I went down 82 all the way to 35, and I saw 2 different dairies for sale. Big new signs up. Full dairy operation, ready to go. They both said full dairy operation, ready to go. Need to sell.
Yeah,
it's just terrible.
They were dumping milk.
Yeah, they were
dumping milk.
Terrible.
No, still had to milk the cow. Still had to feed the cows, and we saw that in the 80s. I know you're old enough. We'll talk about how old you are, but you're old enough that we were young, but we saw the farm crisis in the 80s. And the problem then, we got disconnected in the 70s. In the 60s, everybody knew where their food came from.
Right.
In the 70s and the 80s, we got disconnected. And the famous interview in the parking lot of the grocery store asking the woman what she thought about the farm crisis. She says, I am worried about farmers, but I don't think it affects me because I get all my food at the grocery store.
Right. I know.
Disconnect.
Okay, that being said, let's give the websites real quick again.
Local Yocal Barbecue, bbqandgrill.com, localyocalfarmtomarket.com.
BBQ, one more time.
BBQ, Local Yocal, YOCAL,
Right.
BBQ and grill.com, and localyocalfarmtomarket.com.
Okay.
We like long websites.
I know you do. And social media, what do you know what your social media?
Oh, we're everywhere. We're all the places.
I'll tell you what,
Yocal Barbecue and Grill.
I'll say like I tell people.
Facebook.
I'll say
I think our MySpace account's still up.
I'll tell you what I tell people. Let me have that camera. Just Google me or Google them. How about that?
Just
How about that? Google. That's one of the best things ever invented.
Boom.
Boom.
We're right there at the top.
That's right. Well, okay, if you're trying to get a hold of us, it's obviously Trey'sChowdown.com, and that's got all our live shows, our show with the Country Network. We're proud to be on the Country Network again for a new season. They've done us well, and we enjoy being here. And I really thank you guys for coming out today.
Thanks for having us.
Man, I want everybody to go try the burger right here, the Hamilton.
Support farmers and ranchers.
Support farmers and ranchers and barbers and eat this burger. You got to eat this burger. See y'all next week. We're going to be here with the owner of Rio Mambo and the Rim locations, Brent. See y'all next week. Thanks again for watching. Same time, same bat channel next week. Hi, I'm Trey Chapman, publisher of Trey'sChowdown.com. I'm passionate about finding the best food, drinks, and chefs, and sharing it all with you. I should know I have over 5 decades of food experience. Find me on any podcast platform, Facebook Live, or just Google me. Now you can watch and listen to all my great finds every week on my live TV and radio podcast at Trey's Chowdown Live.